Well, I always knew we were a proud people. We that's the thing. We never had, I think, a mainstream flag that people associated with African Americans, but our culture was undeniable. You can't miss us when you see us, whether it's how we're dressing, how we're talking. African American culture was never boiled down to a flag in the first place. So it didn't, make or break how I felt about the culture. I just like now that we can kind of stamp that flag on it and, to really let it be known like this is us.
Everybody would
So
embrace what the flag represents, that they would understand that it was created to, instill a sense of pride in who we are, in what we bring to the table, and in how we have, shaped so many good things in this country. And to be proud of being Black. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It is something to hold on to. We have an incredible heritage, and that we should always honor it.
I was thinking maybe being a woman of color, I love the history. I wanted to be able to spread the information I've learned, because it's actually, how they say, history repeats itself if you do not make it known. And as we all know, in America, they try to close history. They actually try to take away the Department of, Education. So you need to know the history. You need it for a better future instead of keep trying to suppress it, which is why everything keeps happening over and over again.
So Reconstruction period was the period right after the Civil War again. And it's just exactly what it sounds like. Reconstruct. We need to reconstruct the country. We just had a civil war. We just had a war on American soil. So what do we do? How are we going to adapt to some of the changes after the Civil War? There were a lot of drastic changes to American culture because now slavery is over. Slavery was a huge part of American culture, and it was a huge part of American economy. Again, by the time of the Civil War, things had expanded in the United States of America. The idea was to expand through the tenets and manifest destinies. A lot of formerly enslaved people, they became extremely industrious. They began to own land. They began to definitely work towards owning land and having businesses. And this industry, this prosperity, and this ingenuity coming from people who were formerly enslaved was reflected in the 1910s and the 1920s.
You have to remember, there was no internet, there was no 24-hour TV. There were, newspapers and magazines. And so there was more communication between people, I think, at that time. And there was, one message, I think, in terms of Blacks, and that was, survival, and just wanting to be considered a viable part of American society.
there's a journey that we're all going on, especially as Black women. And, once you reach, I think, some kind of cycle in that journey, you're going to realize that a lot of those things that you were thinking were not true. A lot of those things were, negative messages that you were internalizing. And they might have also just been people who weren't educated, or even when you weren't educated yourself in that moment.
Sisterhood is women that you can come to, that you could just be yourself. Growing up, we didn't have a space. I grew up in a predominantly white community. Nobody looked like me. I went to private school. I was always the only Black student there. So I never had like a sisterhood until I became older. And then I started seeing women that looked like me and that were doing things like me and are doing more than me, and they were just like so amazing. And we could just sit down and just talk and bounce off ideas. But there was a bond there because we all have our struggles of just being Black, a woman, and growing up in America.
I belong to a sisterhood. I belong to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So, and that sisterhood is very important to me. I believe in supporting women, promoting women's businesses, women's health. I went to an all-girls school, as did my mom and my daughter. And so I believe in being supportive of women in all aspects of life.
Sisterhood is being able to depend on another woman, to be honest with you, to be there for you, to cheer for you, to show up for you.
And so, yes, I can say I do. It's maybe not that many, but I do, and they're very influential. They're very, very influential. And of all the people I've met throughout my life, I can actually say that they're more like a mother-like figure to me, which is interesting to say. They're like my mentors in life. The few that I have, they're strong women. They'll tell me they're able to tell me when I'm doing something wrong without making me feel negative or making me feel bad about myself. I love them women. I love the women in my life. I'm not gonna lie.
It's our everything, literally. Like it's the fact that I want to nurture you, right? And it doesn't matter who you are. I want to nurture you, and that's every Black woman that I've ever come in contact with, right? To some degree, right? Is that I want to nurture you, I want to grow you, and we will do that for everyone. Right?
So as a young person, I'd say I think I'm awe-inspired by the thought of it, to think that somebody put in their time and dedication to think of us as a collective. And I think when I know more about our history as a people, and specifically like the Willie Lynch syndrome, like I think it was done very intentionally and purposely to strip us of our roots and our connection to who we are, who our God is, like, and the flag and what that represents for us.
So I would encourage you to continue to look into our history, to continue to look into your own history, because a lot of those questions that you have and a lot of those feelings that you have, other African American people have felt those things before you, and they've done things about them. They've written poems, they've written songs, they've created flags, they've made art. They've done so many things to help you, in the future understand that they felt the same things you felt, and they don't want you to feel alone. And I think that's really the essence of what culture and history and community is, continuing to keep the spirit of pride and love alive.
I wanted to chime in. What do you think that it was a good idea for us to become together instead of separate? Do you think we should have stayed separate? That's a question I've been scared to ask, but I'm gonna ask it.
Say that again.
What did I say? I got scared.
Black women.
We're Black women. Of course we got this.
Cut. Oh, yeah.